Okay, so we have copied all of our content in onto our 8 pages. We have a lot of red because that's the default color on our feature blocks. And now what we're going to try and do is bring a color scheme into this. So red is obviously just the default color when you create a new feature block. So let's go and add some color. So
Okay,
what
awesome.
we do?
Yeah, so red can be a great color if you're trying to present things as strength and dynamic approach, and that can be great. And there's a very famous soft drinks brand that uses it. But for this kind of market and this kind of target demographic, and we're talking about marketing automation, the most palatable color scheme is generally blue or different shades of blue. It's applicable to both genders, and if you're a software company or a design company or a bank or anything like that, it's probably the way to go. It's
Probably loads of banks watching this.
Yeah, loads of banks watching this. But yeah, blue essentially signifies trust, it's reliability, it can be creative approach depending on the shade, and all of those things are applicable to a lot of businesses. And we're talking about marketing automation. It's no surprise that when you go on Facebook, it's using a dark blue to signify this is something that you can rely on when you log in. If you're using Twitter, it's a light blue for their creative, more playful approach. And payment systems like PayPal use the same thing for the same reason, to have that trust. So we're going to use a blue. We're going to use a very similar blue to the PayPal and Twitter palette. And what we've actually done is we can now do that directly in Better Proposals using your new palette picker, basically. Yeah. So we've got 3 predefined blues here. And what we can do is we're going to select the lightest blue for our title sections and for any text that we might want to pull out for particular interest, like a call to action. Okay, so what we'll do is each title block, we will take this light blue and apply it to each of the blocks.
So basically what you're saying is to try and keep this thing consistent is you're trying to actually have some consistency in there. So titles and call to actions will be
always the blue, same shade blue,
blue. And then where you do want to use your like the bulk of your content will be
a different color, exactly. So what you've done with the defined color palettes is given you, the user, a whole selection of different color schemes that are applicable pretty much with all of each other as well, but also with 3 defined monochrome colors on the right hand side. So you've got a almost black, a charcoal color, because it tends to be more readable in design than black itself. So we've got a charcoal color, a white, flat white, which is fantastic for going with your acceptance blocks and other things that are already predefined as white. And basically an off-white grey, which in current design standards is just seen as readable and applicable between sections.
So to make things a little bit more interesting, if you've got sort of quite a lot of text, what you could probably do there is split it up into different sections and then alternate between that white and the grey.
Absolutely,
you've done that quite a lot.
Exactly. If you look at some great websites or brochures, you very rarely see a whole block of text on white anymore because it's just not engaging to read. You're not going to convert people, and this is ultimately, depending on your specific use for it, a lot of it's going to be about selling and converting from a sales proposal. So we want to keep them interested right through a whole bunch of information about your product or your service. So what we want to do is we want to grab big sections of text that we've got and break that into smaller, usable, readable sections. So, for example, we've picked this blue color scheme, as I said, and that goes along with the 3 monochrome sections on the right-hand side. So we define that what we're going to do is use 1 light blue, white, and grey for all sections, and we're not going to deviate from that because that's going to keep our design consistent, and regardless of your design knowledge, it means you're going to get a pretty decent result either way, even if you know nothing.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point actually, because a lot of people that start to use Better Proposals don't necessarily, obviously a lot of designers use this as well, but some don't and don't necessarily know which colours go with other colours and how to sort of create a nice colour palette and that consistency. So what you can do is you can use the predefined colours in the colour palettes, as exactly as Zach said, and you pretty much can't go wrong if you use those colours. So as long as even if you were to mix up some of the other colours, the reds and greens and stuff, might look a bit mad, but even if you were to do that, they generally are all sort of a theme.
Yeah, they're all palatable with each other. We used software that essentially matches various different color schemes or monochromatic schemes together to create a different section of palettes. And certainly if you pick any of the 3 vertical colors, they will always go together no matter what, and they will always go with the 3 monochrome aspects on the right hand side.
it.
But yes, each of those color palettes in themselves, if you really had a very dynamic color range in your work, they would still look okay together. I wouldn't necessarily recommend, purple and green and a red, but they're at least within the same kind of tone.
Got it. Cool. So what we're going to do now is we're going to whiz through and
change all of our feature blocks.
change all our feature blocks to these different colors.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. Cool.
Okay.
Let's get cracking.